Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Buenas, this is Francisco Gallardo with the Healing Generations Podcast, Elder Edition. I want to welcome everybody to this episode. I want to thank everybody for subscribing, listening. If this is your first time, please hit that subscribe button or like button, depending on what platform you're on. We're on all the major platforms, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen, and please share it on your social media. This is the only way we get people to follow us and listen and join the movement about healing our community, doing this transformational healing effort. So as we get going, I want everybody to take the time just to breathe a little bit. We're all so busy, especially with the pandemic, the way it's been rolling, and we want to acknowledge the four directions, So I want you to take a breath in, and I want you to face the east, the direction of the men, our grandfathers, our fathers, our sons, our homies, our uncles, all the men in our community. We want to think about the blessings that they bring to our communities. We want to think about them. And then as we turn around to our left and face the west, as we get there, there's that spectrum in between, all the relatives that are not quite in the men's direction or the woman's direction. But we want to think about those relatives too. Think about all their blessings and beautiful regalos that they bring. And then as we face the west, where the women are, we wanna think about our grandmothers, our mothers. We want to think about our daughters. We want to think about our aunties, our nieces, our granddaughters, all the women in our community. We want to think about what they bring, the blessings that they bring. We want to think about all the struggles that they bring too, that we're aware of them. When we make decisions, when we do things in our community, we want to be aware of them. And then we want to turn around all the way to the north, and we want to acknowledge our ancestors, those that prayed for us even before we were born. We want to think about them. We want to think about all the beautiful blessings that they brought us, despite what was going on in our communities, despite the racism, despite all the things that they had to overcome. We want to thank our ancestors and our elders, We want to think about them and also pray for them too during this. In some parts of the country, it's cold, they're making hard decisions. We want them to be all right. And then we want to turn around again all the way to the south, to our future generations, to our children that are not even born yet. We want to think about them. We want to think about all the things that they've been through, that they're going to go through, that the blessings that we hopefully provide for them. We want to think about that. And our children that are here, we want to think about them. We want to think about our young people, all the way up, to our teenagers. We want to think about them, that they could still be kids. They could still enjoy life before they have to hit the realities of life. Some of them are already there. We want to think about them. And then we want to honor the sun, Tonantiu, for the light, for the hope, for the energy it provides for us. And then we want to touch Mother Earth, Tonantzin, all the blessings that she provides for us. We want to think about that as well. And then we want to think about the Creator in the center. Whatever you pray to, whatever you think about when you want to pray or have those thoughts, whatever entity that is, we want to thank the Creator though. We want to thank the Creator for our lives and for all the blessings that we have, and even the trauma that we face, that somehow we learn from that, and we could learn and provide some healing to ourselves and our community. So I want to say a whole to each and every one of you. Thank you for taking that time, thinking about that, thinking about those directions and what they mean, what the significance is. And so our guest this week is a special guest. We have a bro of mine. He used to work for well, he still does. Actually, works for GRASP, the Game Rescue and Support Project in Denver. But I want the reason why I want him to come on is one is he's a young Yalder, a young Yalder in the spectrum of that. He's young and but he's up and coming. As far as like organizationally, like to me, he's been like a catch-all person. He could do a little bit of everything from one group to organize different business parts of organizations, and that's a kind of work when you're in the community. You need that kind of diversity. When you're talking about running an organization, you need not only people who are good with kids and good with, the business aspect, but you also need people that are hustlers too. And Jerry's one of those guys who's like that. So I'm going to ask you, Jerry, can you introduce yourself, your family, your background, and a little bit of your journey up to this point?
What's up, everybody? I'm Jerry. Grew up around the United States, not in just one centralized location. But if you had to centralize it, you would say Denver is the place that I grew up the most. Granted, I was everywhere. My mom was a Rolling Stone. You made her mad. She left and made a new place her home, and so that's where we went to. I got 5 young people under me, my little broke best friends. Some people call them their children. I call them my broke best friends. I come from a background of social justice, let's say that, because, you're thinking to yourself, what does social justice look like for me? And for me, social justice looks like, how do I help my community be a lot better than it was? And through that, it's like, instilling that village aspect. It takes a village to raise a child. It took a village to raise me. And then it also takes us instilling the knowledge that we have now into the young people coming up, because a lot of people get a lot of knowledge, right? And they don't pass that on, and it dies with them. And so for me, it was like making sure each one teach one. So a lot of where I came from is I wanted to help people, and helping people was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I started a youth organization before I came to GRASP, and then I came to GRASP, and that youth organization is still going. Still do a little bit of everything, but that was part of my helping journey. And then, within that youth organization, I got offered a lot of opportunities, but within those opportunities, the color of your skin dictates how people treat you moving forward. So I was a very intelligent young man. I could do just about any job that anybody else could do. But within the color of your skin, you got to have a degree to match any of those jobs that you want to do. And so I went and got a degree, went to Metro State University, and I was able to create my own degree at Metro State University. It's an individualized degree program. And my degree was in Human Services and Africana Studies, but I also studied Native American Studies, Chicano Studies, and many others. And the name of my degree I named Youth Development Through Cultural Awareness, because, the best way to develop a young mind is to instill cultural relevancy into them so that they want to be better in the future.
So, what are the lessons that you learned from your culture, family, and life along the way that helped you in your own healing and development, such as, music, art, advocacy? What along the way helped you in your healing to understand why you wanted to help your community?
What helped me along the way is that I needed an understanding that there was more people going through the same thing I was going through than just me. Sort of like in that essence, that thought that, in the Black and brown community, you can't have psychological issues. If you got something psychologically going on with you, you got to mask that feeling and just keep pushing. And I learned early on that, we have those issues, and that's, how we get through that is talking to somebody. And that's what caused me to want to help. It wasn't that I had to go to a, licensed therapist or something like that. It was that I learned that within that, your community were the ones to talk to, and learn that they were going through those things and help each one, push through that. And within that, I also learned that there were a lot of differences. Like, you didn't have to be blood to be family. You could be family just because, hey, that's my brother. We don't share the same mom or the same dad, but that's my brother. Or, I learned that, some people need an escape. And for me, my escape was drumming, starting at 16. Granted, I wanted to start younger because, that's the thing to do. But you learn early on, if you don't got the money, you ain't doing it. So I didn't get to start, drumming like I wanted to until I was 16, because Denver didn't have a lot of music programs that were free for young people back then. And then 16, I started drumming. 18, we started our own group, and we just went from there, and became a dynamic force. But I learned that that was my way to escape reality, in a sense, and all that pent up aggression that I had, because trust me, I had a lot. I wanted to hurt a lot of people. I learned that taking out that pent up aggression on a drum and doing your thing was the best thing for me. And once I learned that, I was able to convey that to some young people who were mentally going through the same thing in the hood, who wanted to ultimately do the same thing, and came in with a lot of baggage and a lot of things on their heart. And I learned that if I was able to teach them that same value that I learned through my community, it was better for the community. And once they learned that, they instilled that into the younger people coming in, and it continued that cycle of, healing that we all look for.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times people, they look for some grandiose thing, right, when it comes to healing. But it really is getting into something that you like, getting into be it drumming, art, something. And it really is very artistic, and it's also just healing, just for being what it is. So I know that when I saw you guys, I really enjoyed it, and it kind of and I also saw the work ethic involved, practicing, getting people involved, all that kind of thing. It takes time. But tell me about what you're doing now, the work that you're doing with Grasp, and how do you build on those lessons, doing this kind of hospital-based intervention work, how is it? And what from that, what do you think you could, school some people that are interested in doing that type of work?
How I'm building on it now is, within the work in GRASS, we're in a hospital-based violence intervention program. So within that work is, if you've been shot, stabbed, assaulted, suffered a violent traumatic injury, and you come into Denver Health or one of the other local hospitals here in Colorado that the AIM program is in, you talk to one of us on the team, and we talk to you about what your situation looked like. Number one, how you got there, and how you digress from there, and how you grow and heal. But a lot of it is based on, some of us are trained. We're trained to be those violence intervention workers. We're trained to be that secondary counselor. We had that training that said, we need you to go in there and you show empathy, and you show this and you show that, and you don't pull yourself into the conversation, right? And within that, we had to understand that not pulling yourself into the conversation did not make it a meaningful connection, because they didn't understand that you probably went through the same thing. And so to grow from that, we had to learn to pull ourselves into the conversation and help them understand that, number one, we're here to develop a relationship. We're going to be here for a while. It's not just going to be I walk in this whole hospital room, talk to you for about 5 or 10 good minutes and walk out and you never see me again. It's I walk into this hospital room and I'm whatever you need me to be. If you don't need me to be here, then I probably won't be here. But if you need me to be here, I'm definitely going to be here for you. And we're going to sit and talk for hours. I'm going to figure out what's going on. I'm going to console you if you can't make a phone call. I'm going to be here. And we're going to talk about how this experience is not just aching to you. It's happened to many other people. It might have even happened to me. And, that helps develop the relationship, but that helps them learn that it's okay to heal from this and that there will be healing. There will be a time where you will be a lot better than you was. You may be down right now and it's okay to be down. You may be hurt right now and it's okay to be hurt. There's nothing in there that says, I'm from the hood. I'm a big dude. I can't cry. Nope. You can do whatever you want to do in this moment. And that's what we're here to convey. And we're here to convey that, you can do all of these things and still progress through your healing. And I think that part of the dynamic for me came within the work that I did before in the drum line and in my lessons and learning from my community as opposed to just learning from the school. Like, we have it in us to be great, right? We have it in us to do amazing things and to be amazing counselors and people to help people heal. But the color of our skin, I just hate to say it, dictates how much we can do without that degree. And so we go to school and we get that degree or we get the license and we get the accreditation to do all these great things. And then when we get back into the work, we learn that everything we learn in the school is a way for a certain set of people, but it does not meet the people who we are dealing with. And we have to understand that the people that we deal with cannot be placed in a category or a box because in all essence, people are individuals. They're unique. They're not all the same. There may be, a lot of the same misnomers that they're going through, but the way that they handle their situation is always different. And that's not something you learn in a class. You have to learn that from genuinely working with people. And you have to learn that from genuinely learning who you are as a person.
So tell me a little bit more about how healing plays a role in Black and Brown unity, and what advice can you give to people who are getting into this work to, how much of their own trauma have to, how much they have to deal with their trauma to do this type of work. Because, like I said before, we've seen and we've been a part of many youth and we witnessed and been with them through their trauma, but it's one of those things. How do we help them to get past that? And there's a lot of young people that want to do this work. I mean, that apply for jobs that we have. And I mean, you just went through this whole thing where you're interviewing people about working with the population that we work with, those impacted by community violence. How do you help them? How do you really help them prepare for it?
What I'll say is that healing plays a very important role in Black and Brown unity because it is the pillar of Black and Brown unity. If we're not healed, how can we move on? National Compadres Network and Maestro Jerry, or Uncle Jerry for me, has taught us healed people heal people, and within that, that becomes that pillar to Black and Brown unity because the healed side of the community is the one that's out there on a daily doing the work, trying to make sure that they're helping the rest of the community heal. So I say it plays a very important pillar, but to go further into that, I go into the fact that, if you're coming in to do this work, you have to work on yourself at the same time that you're trying to work on other people. You have to work on, you have to make sure that as you're trying to help other people heal, you're healing. And you have to understand when you need to take a step back and heal a little more because you're not completely where you need to be. Sometimes, we get into this work and we feel that we're healed. We feel that, we're doing great and nothing can break us. And we get to that one moment that we're in a situation that, brings back past traumas and we're not as healed as we need to be. And within that, it comes a time that you start talking to somebody about how you get to that point of healing within this work. The advice I give to people doing this work is that you got to deal with your traumas. And, you may not have dealt with it yet. You may have thought you dealt with a big piece of it and that you've gotten past it, and it didn't happen. And you get to a situation where that trauma resurfaces. You have to know when to take a step back. And I say, if you're going to do this work, you need to have a team of people to do this work. As much as we like to say it's a one-man show, I've been doing this for years, I've been doing it by myself, it's not really a one-man show. You got to have more than one person to do this work because we lean and depend on each other, right? And within that, we know what our traumas are, and we know when we need to just take a step back and have our team come in. There's been many instances where we thought we were healed from a trauma and we got into a situation and we had to call on our team. This is just me personally. Had to call on the team and say, hey, this is what's going on, and I just need you to come up here because I don't know how I'm going to handle this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. This hits a little closer to home than most, and it's like rubbing me the wrong way. Or, not only dealing with trauma, dealing with past grievances that you may have held with somebody, and you see them and you're supposed to help them and you can't get through that. That's another essence in where you need your team to come in and work with that. And so I feel like, healing is the pillar to it, but understanding what your traumas are and finding a way to heal from that.
So that's important, right? If you're going to do the work, be aware because you will get triggered. There ain't no doubt about it. You will get triggered. I remember one time I went into the hospital. This is before we had the hospital program, and one of the youth in the group had told me, "Hey, my homie was shot." Actually, it was his cousin, and he asked me to go to the hospital and talk to the parents. And so I went in there. Wasn't sure what to expect, but automatically, I was not that far away from it at that time, maybe 5 years or so, or even closer than that. I think it was about 5 years maybe. And I just remember I just remember my homeboy, but mostly the parents that I saw in there and just how they were triggered, and it just triggered me. And luckily I had the strength to kind of to get through the initial trauma of it. But it was tough because the young man ended up dying. It just really brought home kind of the pain that's involved in the community, and it brought me back to when I was younger, having to deal with some of my homies in that predicament. So you're right, you got to be aware of it and you got to deal with it. So in short, I want to thank you again for agreeing to be on our show, and we're trying to provide different perspectives of people doing this healing work. It comes up in different ways. Later on, we're gonna have a discussion with Alex Sanchez with Homies Unidos here in Los Angeles and the work that he does with the Central American gangs, those that are in prison, all this different kind of thing. But I want to leave you with what's your final thought. When it comes to all the work that you've done up to this point, what would you like to share with people? How can people get involved in their local community, if not in Denver, but wherever they're at? How can people get involved in whatever, to help a young person out? You know what I mean? And maybe even with their own healing in whatever way that's possible.
I'm gonna go backwards and then forward, right? So the last thing you said is how can people get involved in this work? And I say the best way to get involved is just to be present. A lot of times, we want to get into organizations and we want to be seen and whatnot. And sometimes being present is not being seen. Being present is, being in the background and, being there to help and not worried about who sees you and who doesn't see you. More often than not, I'm in many different places and people like you everywhere. And I'm like, not really. I just, tend to be at the right places at the right time. And I'm only here to help. And sometimes you got to tell them, it's better to be seen and not viewed, right? But just be present. Let people know you're there. Hey, I'm here if you need me. What do you need from me? Even if you don't need me right now, I'm always available. And when you say those statements, you got to make sure that you really are always available. You're available for them. Like in our job here at Grasp, we have some hours that we normally work, but we're always available. And there's been many a times where the phone and rang at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning talking about, hey man, I done messed up. I need you to like, come get me, this is what's going on. Or, I really just feel like I'm at that point where I want to hurt somebody and this happened. And, we're there for that. So be available, be present, and be ready for what's to come. Like, if you say, hey, I just got out of jail and I, want to teach these young people about my story. We understand that you want to tell these young people about your story. You want to tell them what's going on with you and how you got out the life. But you got to realize that you're not really that far removed, number one. And number two, they are not ready to listen to that story. So somewhere in there, you just got to be present with what you got going on and, making sure that these young people know, hey, this is what happened to me and this is how I would advise to kind of, do better. But this is just an advisement. Don't push it on them. Just, let them know. And so that they see that you're there to kind of give them a little wisdom and at the same time be present. We're not discouraging you from doing this work. We want you to do the work. We want more people to come in and want to do this work because an outreach worker is few and far between. A person working in a healing environment is few and far between. And then when you look at that pay, you be like, man, this is not enough to sustain. But if you really love the work you do, it doesn't matter what's enough to sustain. You find your legal hustles. Key word, legal hustles. I would say, do that. My advice is to be prepared for the work. The work is long hours and low pay, but the benefit that you get from it is the fact that you help somebody. And trust and believe, there are some kids who I will not say are beyond help. What I will say is there are some kids who just don't want your help right now. And you have to understand that they don't want your help right now. But, down the road, a little further in, you'll begin to understand that just a little bit of time and effort you put in there change something within their dynamic to make them a better person. Change does not happen overnight. Greatness does not happen overnight. It takes some time and effort, and it may be like 10, 15 years when that young person comes back to you and tells you thank you for all you did for him and or her, and how they got to a better place just by you speaking a few kind words or spending a couple minutes with them. And I'll say for my final thought, I'll say be present.
I like it, man, because you're right. Being present is the key, right? Being consistent. If you ain't consistent, they're not going to trust you. And really, anytime you're in any relationship, it's all about trust. And if they can't trust you, it's difficult for them to be vulnerable, difficult to reach out at that exact moment when they really feel like, hey, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this right now. I'm gonna try to do something different. And if you ain't prepared for it, so if you're gonna say something, stick to it, man. Ha palabra is what we always say, right? Ha palabra. So with that, thank you again, Jerry. I appreciate it so much. Again, that's Jerry Morgan with GRASP, with Gang Rescue Support Project in Denver, Colorado. You could go to grasp youth.org I believe is the website. You could go there and learn more about grass. You could even find them on Facebook or wherever. But again, I want to thank all our listeners again. Again, please follow, like, whatever you need to do, share, let people know what's up. And if you have any suggestions for guests, go ahead and drop me an email at cisco@compadresnetwork.org, or interact with our Facebook page or our Instagram, our Twitter account. Let us know. Let us know, somebody you think we should interview and get their perspective, because, we're always looking for guests, looking for different approaches to this healing journey that we're all on. You know what I mean? Not only individually, but community, and ultimately for our peoples. We want the best for each and every one of us that way. So again, thank you a lot. Tlazocomali, palabra.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.